But first, we've got breaking news. In the last half hour, we've learned that the challenger in an Indiana State Senate election is now officially calling for a recount.
Paula Copenhaver was endorsed by President Trump in her primary challenge to State Senator Spencer Deary. 13 News State House reporter Emily Longnecker has been looking at this race, which is currently now hanging on just 2 votes.
Yeah,
it's hard to believe.
Right? Okay, so according to the Secretary of State's website, Deary has a 2-vote lead over Copenhagen. Today's filing, though, could change all of that. On Friday, all of Indiana's elections were certified. That opened a brief window for candidates or party leaders to file petitions calling for recounts. In a statement, Copenhagen said in part, quote, "We have obtained documented evidence of illegal voting by unqualified voters in the Senate District 23 Republican primary. We are formally pursuing a recount to ensure votes were properly counted and returned in this very close election." We have reached out to lawyers for Deary, but we have not heard back yet.
So what happens now, Em?
Okay, so now that the petition has been filed, the recount petition has been filed, the process can start. And what that involves is the state police going and securing all of these ballots in this election for Senate District 23, which includes West Lafayette. After those ballots are secured, staff from the Indiana State Board of Accounts will examine all of the ballots. This is a bipartisan body, and they will have observers from the campaigns with them. If one of those observers challenges a vote, a ballot, it will be sent to the Indiana State Recount Commission for review. And the Recount Commission, they will either certify the ballots or discard them, and their decision is final.
Emily, who's on that recount commission?
Okay, so the Recount Commission, it's a 3-member body with a representative of each major political party, 1 Republican, 1 Democrat, and then Indiana Secretary of State Diego Morales is the 3rd member.
So how is it that we got this primary down to this margin of just 2 votes?
I mean, well, this is one of the primaries that is tied to the redistricting fight from last year, and Deary was one of 21 Republican state senators who sided with Democrats to defeat President Trump's push to redraw Indiana's congressional map. So Trump promised retribution, you'll remember, and backed primary challengers to 7 of those senators this year. So far, just 2 of those incumbents, Deary and Senator Greg Good in District 38, have managed to defeat their challengers.
Yes, it just sounds like a lengthy process. How long will it take for all of this to happen, Emily?
I mean, that's the question, right? Because they have to go down there. First, the state police have to secure those ballots, which is probably happening as we speak, right? They call it impounding the ballots. They'll put a lock on the door, basically, and guard those ballots. Then the staff from the State Board of Accounts has to go down and look over one by one each of those ballots and decide. So that could take some time. And then all of the ballots that are in question, that are challenged, that goes to the Recount Commission, and that will be a public hearing where they will examine each ballot that's been challenged. So it could, we could be looking at some time here.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many ballots there are in that area. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah. We'll find out how many get challenged.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much.
Right.
Developing tonight, a man is in police custody months after investigators say that he drove drunk and then killed a woman in a crash.
This happened early Christmas morning near 38th and Hidoffer on the far east side of Indianapolis. Tonight, our Ashton Hackman tells us it wasn't just alcohol that caught the attention of police.
25-year-old Stanley Louis is charged with 4 separate felonies, including causing death while operating intoxicated, reckless homicide, and causing death while never having a license. Court docs say Louis was driving home from a friend's house just before 3 in the morning. His wife was following behind in another car, but they didn't make it home. Louis allegedly hit another car. 32-year-old Haley Clark was the driver. She died in the crash.
Investigators say Louis' blood alcohol content wasn't the only thing. That was twice the legal limit. And that at the time of the impact of the crash here at Mithofer and John Marshall Drive, Louis was going nearly 100 miles an hour.
Investigators say he was likely going much faster, with estimates that Louis was going at least 118 miles an hour before the crash. The speed limit along this stretch is 35.
They're forever going to think about Christmas Day, what should be a happy time for them and celebration. to wake up and find out that your family members lost their life.
Investigators say Louis did not have a license at the time of the crash and never had one. Court docs say he also suffered serious injuries in the crash and was hospitalized with broken bones.
Getting behind the wheel, if you're unlicensed, if you're getting behind the wheel, having been intoxicated on narcotics or alcohol, these things are not appropriate, right? These are very large items that can be deadly.
Police say it's on all of us to be thinking of the other drivers we put at risk.
It's a no-win situation. You have a life lost and someone's going to pay the ultimate price going to jail and having to remember that they took a life.
Louis is being held in jail without bond on an ICE hold. He is scheduled to make his first court appearance Tuesday morning. In Indianapolis, Ashton Hackman, 13 News.
Police say the woman killed in that crash was also driving without a license and had a blood alcohol content of 0.158.
Tonight, a city county councilor is calling for a plan to better protect visitors at an East Side City Park in his district.
This comes after a shooting in that park just last night. Rich and I talked to the councilor, Keith Graves, about his concerns for West Montgomery Park.
Responding to a person shot at 3400 North Hawthorne Lane.
That's the address for West Montgomery Park on Indy's east side. One woman was taken to the hospital on Sunday night just after 9 p.m. in stable condition. Multiple shots were allegedly fired, with apparent bullet holes left in the shelter house that appeared to be hosting a graduation party. The park has undergone millions of dollars in renovations in recent years, including this basketball pavilion.
All the backboards in this covered pavilion have the Caitlin Clark logo and say Caitlin was here. But someone was here Sunday night and they weren't shooting basketball.
The park sits in the district of City County Councilor Keith Graves, who is calling for park safety changes.
I don't know what that looks like, Rich. I think that it's really important that we have the conversation. I think it's important that our law enforcement professionals, whether they park rangers or IMPD or whomever, come to the table with our community leaders.
Indianapolis has just 8 park rangers in its police department. In Indianapolis, Rich Knight, 13 News.